All right, hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you all. So yeah, Saturday, is it Saturday? Yeah, it should be Saturday, right? Yeah, so we're just gonna be vibing, as the kids say. We'll just be vibing. I'm gonna be working some more on that Cthulhu guy, getting some animations in place, getting that screen functional. It's gonna be a lot of experimentation today, I think, because I really don't know how I'm gonna animate it, and I've still got a bunch of problems with it, but we'll just be trying some things, figuring out how to make that work. But before I get into it, Gunforged is available for purchase. It's my first commercial release as a full-time indie dev. So if this is the kind of game that you're interested in, definitely check it out. Consider purchasing it on Steam. You can get it at a discount too if you purchase it as part of a bundle. And also you could wishlist it so that if it goes on sale at some point, you can get it for cheaper. And I also have my Udemy courses available for sale. These will teach you how to build a complete game in the Godot engine. Those are linked in the description below. And I am currently working on a new Udemy course, which is the online multiplayer course in Godot. That's going to be in GD script. So yeah, if you're interested in that, then you can hit the notification bell to be notified when that goes live. I think that's it. I think that's everything. So let's go back to what we were doing here. Got the enchant container that we're working on. So here's the things that I kind of want to address today. So firstly, we need to animate this screen in when you first go to it. But I also want these tentacles to be animated in some way as well, like animated in, I mean. So having them come out of this void, which I do want to be water, I think. but I'm going to have to figure that out. Figure out exactly what I want to do there. I'm just noticing now too, there's a problem with this board. Hold on a second. I don't know why this is rendering incorrectly. Oh, maybe the position. Oh, maybe it's just the position of it. Okay, anyway, I'll worry about that later. So, let me think. Yeah, we want to do some kind of animation here and then maybe add some blinking to this. Also, the face needs to be animated a little bit more. So we'll try to animate those tentacles in some way. I have no clue how we're going to do that, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, hello, Mycoon Dev. Welcome. Always good to see you. Hello, iCode Stuff. Welcome back. Good to see you as well. Camillo, Adam, good to see you all. Got some regular viewers here. Rectum, dang near killed him. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube still, but... Anyway, Saturday stream. Hello, Toshigata. Welcome. So what is the first thing we want to do? Well, I do want to get this face animating better. This Cthulhu face. I don't know exactly, because it's not going to be as simple as just cutting these tentacles off the face here and animating them. At least I don't think so. Because we've got, like, it curves back on itself a little bit over here. So if I just animate it as one unit, that's going to be a problem. One thing I might try real quick, actually. I might try just moving the head up and down very slightly. So let's do this. Node 2D. Node 2D. Copy this position. Paste that here. Let's call it visuals, move the head under there. So now the head should have a position of 0, 0. And I can animate that now. I'll just do it with a tween. Node private sprite 2D head var tween is equal to create tween tween property head node path property. This can be string node 2D dot property name dot position, final value vector 2.0 over point. Let's do 1 second actually, and then we'll duplicate that. We're going to do vector 2 dot down, and then we'll do tween dot set loops 0. So now the head should just be going up and down. Okay, so that adds a little bit more motion to it. That's maybe too quick, so I'm going to do 1.5 and 1.5 instead. Hello, Bonton. Welcome. Good to see you. I don't think I've seen you in chat before, so welcome to the stream. You as well, Infinity01, welcome to the stream. Good morning, Arion. Looking great, thank you. Appreciate that. Do we like the head movement? I think when the tentacles get moving, I think we're going to be in business. We're going to be in business when the tentacles start moving. Take that sentence out of context. Anyway, enchant. So in here, I'm going to need to split out these tentacles. me think about how I want to do this. I'm going to get rid of this and put this on the head tentacles highlights there. So it's part of the proper layer. So we don't need these. Okay, so the tentacles, oh goodness. I basically just need to split these up into separate images. Okay. Why do I do this to myself? Head, tentacle, lower right. I'm gonna put these all in a group, I think. New group. I'm gonna call this head, tentacles. Oof. Okay. So I got one tentacle down. Let's grab this one now. Oh, goodness. Do you think business manager simulator kind of game would work in 2D? You know what? I honestly don't even know why those simulator games work to begin with. I see people like these games on Steam like unpacking, and I'm like, who's buying this? Like this quote unquote game would bore me to tears. Or like the job simulator games. I'm just like, those are so far beyond me. I know you're asking more on a technical standpoint, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't even understand that whole genre of games to begin with. But from a technical standpoint, I don't see why not. Business manager simulator kind of game. I mean, you know, the original like Roller Coaster Tycoon was a 2D game, right? I mean, it had like 3D elements. So I don't see why not. I guess I don't know what kind of business manager simulation game you're looking at, but I could imagine like an isometric tycoon game working very well in 2D. I don't know, but I don't know anything about those kind of games, but I don't see why 2D would be a problem. Good morning, Emerson. They do sell a lot. Yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking it. Like, obviously people buy them, but let's just put it this way. If the video game market was entirely made of people like me, those games would not be a genre. But the market's not made up of people entirely like me, so there you go. My hair is crazy today. Paperwork Simulator oddly worked. I really love Papers, Please. Yeah, I did play Papers, Please as well, because it was like that was during like the height. I mean, I may be misremembering this because I was a little bit younger, but that was kind of like during the height of like the indie game craze, right? Where people were like waking up to the fact that, wait a minute, there's like these small developers that are making these incredible games. And so I got caught up in the Papers, Please hype and played it for a bit, but I didn't find it that compelling, really. I think again, I just don't like those kind of games, I guess. I am not liking how this is going so far. I'm gonna stop chopping these up right now. I'm gonna stop chopping these up and I'm just gonna try to animate one of them first. Because then I gotta split up these highlights too. Do I want to just merge these? I wonder if I should just merge everything together. Part of what's making this annoying is I've got these suction cups and the highlights on different layers. And so I need to chop up like 40 different things here. And I don't really see a value in maintaining those layers, especially since like this file exists in version control. So if I ever needed to go back and reclaim something, I could do that. So I'm just taking the non-destructive tendencies way too far, I think. But I'm going to try to do this. So we're going to take that, and that. We're going to export this. We're going to take the selection area, and we're going to take only the selected layers. And before I do this, let's do select, modify, expand. Let's just do a 10 pixel expansion. That's fine. Okay, we're going to do this head, tentacle, lower right. And did that give me what I needed? Nope, that did not give me what I needed. Oh, I had the wrong layer selected. I had the wrong layer selected, okay. There we go. Now I'm still getting that. Why am I getting that? Oh, maybe that's just a rendering issue. Where is this coming from? That's just a rendering? Okay, well, let's just try this. So we got the head. Let's add sprite 2D. Head, tentacle, lower. Where is that okay, there's something wrong here. Oh, I forgot to select, modify, expand, 10. Oh, I see. It's coming from those. Oh, man. This is nuts. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do first. I'm just going to take this. I'm just going to take the raw tentacle here. And I'm just going to do it without all the texturing, just so I can see what it looks like when I animate it. Now, I'm fairly certain that if I just take this shader material and plop this onto here, this is not going to look good at all. And it's not going to look good for a couple of reasons. One, this side of the tentacle here needs to be rooted to the face. So even if I do apply a wave animation shader to this, this needs to remain fixed, right? Now, I wonder if I could do something interesting. I have no idea how to do this, but I wonder if I could try this. I could create a mask, a secondary mask that matches the dimensions of this image, where each pixel in that mask determines how strong the wave is at that pixel position. So it's kind of like a normal map, right? I could potentially also specify using the mask which direction the tentacle needs to wave. So I could potentially change the directionality of the wave as you go up the tentacle. This might not actually look that bad though. It's not moving exactly like a tentacle. I could maybe fix that by layering on some more sine waves instead. The other thing is, like, this doesn't need to look perfect. Like, this actually looks fine, actually. Even though it's not... I mean, I'd love to see the tentacle move out and curl out a little bit more. But the thing is, I just need to give the impression that this thing is, like, living, right? So I could do... I think... So instead of having a mask where each pixel corresponds to the direction of the wave, I could just make a mask that's just a black and white mask that determines how strong the wave offset is. And then I can take this part of the image and basically set that weight down to very close to 0. So it stays rooted to the face, and then it will move more as it gets out from the head there. So let's try that. Let's try it. I should know at this point, but I'm curious, are you using tile maps for your cards? No, the cards are not tile maps. The board is a tile map for display purposes, but the cards, I'm just drawing them so that they have the correct size that they fit into the tiles. I really like empire building and resource management games, and these job simulator games are kind of like that, I guess. Yeah, that's true. Just lurking today, doing a game jam, and it's due in 12 hours. Oh, for sure, yeah. This is a chill stream. A lot of people work on their projects while they watch these streams and these VODs and everything, so it's awesome. We can do, it's like a little bit of a jam sesh, internet jam sesh. Hello, Snupbill with the message yummers. We all love the message yummers. Thank you, Snupbill, for it. I always look forward to that every day. And welcome back to the stream. Do you only keep the exported sprites in version control and not the A-sprite files with layer info? No, I keep everything in version control. Everything. So A-sprite files for the non-destructive source, and then also the exported files, yeah. Yes, indeed. You could probably interpolate the wave shader intensity. Yeah, I think so. Hello, AnyKey. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Making a colony sim game in Godot. Learned a few things from you. Awesome. Happy to hear that. Weekend yummers. Yes, indeed. When are we going to do the Firebelly Jam? You know what? That's a good question. How about this? When I hit 50,000 subscribers, I'll do a Firebelly Jam. So double my subscriber count right now, which I think will be doable because the code review series is actually being a big source of subscribers lately. So if I keep that series up, and then I also start making devlogs for this game, I think that the 50,000 subscribers is I think that's a doable target before the year is over. Hello, Vetris. Are you using Signals? I am using Signals. Do you want to know a specific context where I'm using Signals? I mean, just as a general thing, yes, I'm using Signals quite frequently throughout the game. So let me try this then. So I'm going to take this assets, UI, enchant this. I'm going to save this as head tentacle lower right. Well, let's do this. Wait. Head tentacle lower right mask. Let's just convert all of this to, let's do black and white. So black, black, and then let's also get some white going. Okay, so we got black and white now. Okay. So black will be 0 intensity. So really what I want to do is take this. Let's see if I can be fancy. Can I do this to subtract? Nice. So I've subtracted that. And then what I'm going to do is go and get my gradient tool here. We're going to do no dithering. We want the initial like root section to be mostly black. So if I do it like this, fill this in with white now. How do I, does anyone know how to, oops. How do I fill with the alternate color? So F is fill with my main color. There must be a way to fill with my other color, right? Oh well, I'll just do that. Okay, now let's modify this shader. So I'm gonna make this unique. We're also gonna make this unique, so I'm not changing that shader elsewhere. Uniform sampler 2D, wave mask. This is not necessary anymore. Okay, so let's do this. Float wave mask multiplier is equal to texture wave mask UV dot R. Then we'll take this UV wave offset in here and we'll multiply that by the wave mask multiplier. That piece is still moving. Oh, there is a little bit of movement allowed right there. Okay, so I think I just need to make this gradient a little bit more... I just need to make this gradient a little bit more aggressive here, I think. Ah, shoot. Okay, what in the world? There we go. Oh, we're getting some weird... What is that? Oh, it's like overlapping on itself a little bit. That's all right. Let me just see what that looks like now before we go too far. Kind of global signal bus or something. Oh yeah, I'm using a global signal bus. Yeah. I'm not using it very heavily right now, but that's something that is basically exists in all of my games. I don't think Gunforged would have been an absolute mess if I didn't have that. Because with Gunforged, you know, like there are some gun abilities or passives that need to know, for instance, when an enemy has died, right? And I've got, you know, like weapon runes that can respond to enemy death. I've got passives that can respond to enemy death. And so getting all of those to be notified in the correct place of an enemy death would be a lot more difficult if I wasn't using like a global signal forwarder. Now, in that case, in that game, what I did is I made all of the global game events. They accepted a class, a base event class that extended ref counted. And that class always contained certain context. So there was an event context object that was sent in with those global events. And inside of that event context, there would be things like a reference to the scene tree. And that's a neat little trick that you can do when you have things that are like pure scripts. So all of the runes in Gunforged, which are things you can add to your gun, those were all pure scripts. The runes were never any logical part of the scene tree. They're just purely scripts. But sometimes the runes need to be able to modify the scene tree, like load and add a packed scene to the scene tree. And so if you pass a reference to the scene tree along with your context object in the signal, then even from a pure script, you can modify the scene tree. So you don't actually need to be a node in the scene tree to do stuff to the scene tree. So that was very helpful. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent, but you right click, oh, to fill. Hello, Neozoid. Shaders scare me, yeah. Yeah, shaders they're hard to wrap your mind around. How does Steam sales work for devs? Do you initiate it? I'm assuming the lower price paid means lower payout for the dev. Yeah, so you always have to opt into whatever sales. You can set your own sales. You can participate in the Steam sales that happen throughout the year. And then, yeah, whatever, you get a lower payout because of the lower price. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. Yes, you get a lower amount of money per unit sold, but the counterintuitive thing is you may actually make more money because more people buy it, right? So you get more sales volume when it's on sale, which leads to higher revenue. Obviously, we're talking about post-launch, right? Because I think the initial launch of any game is generally going to be the highest revenue period. Answered the question 5 at awesome. How do we feel about that? Does that look okay? Obviously, I need to add all the tentacle stuff, the suckers and whatnot back on, but are we feeling okay about that? Makes sense, yeah. I need to change this view too. Is it still a pixel game if pixels move around without anti-aliasing or something? Yeah, man, there's all kinds of pixel games that don't use anti-aliasing. When using shaders. Yeah, I mean, it's still being rendered as a pixel game. It's not... you know, it's not a higher resolution. Yeah, it does stretch. Yeah, that's true. Okay. I don't know. How are we feeling about those head tentacles? I think it's probably okay. I like the eyes that moves with the mouse pointer. Thank you. Yeah, I like it a lot too. Welcome back to the stream, by the way, NetK. I feel like as long as the final presentation is pixelated, it's a Pixel art game. Like Dead Cells is technically 3D under the hood, but it's definitely a pixel art game. Yeah. I'm not sure how tentacles on head and bottom connect. Well, this is supposed to be like water here. So... but it also doesn't have to make that much sense. I mean, it's just kind of like a fantastical game, you know? All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to shoot. I'm going to take this, cut this out, paste that there, merge that down. Take that, new layer, paste it there, merge it down. And now I've got a whole tentacle. What's the gradient doing? That is a mask for the shader. So the shader is applying a wave animation to the tentacle, but then it's also sampling this texture, and it's using the value of the pixel to determine how strong the wave should be. So black is 0 strength and white is 1 strength. So this essentially means that this region of the art is not going to be animated at all, is basically what it's saying. You should add more tentacles around and grabbing the grid. Well, I could do that, but it's a lot of work. I'm gonna see what I can do with this first, and then we'll figure it out. I'm eager to just get this screen working and done, because there's other stuff to do. Okay. Oops. Goodbye, tentacle. All right, which one is this? This is head tentacle lower left. Paste it there. Let's just get started by cutting these things out. Oops, wrong one. Merge down. Get the highlights in place. Merge down. Okay. And then the last one, this should be relatively easy. I can just cut this. Head tentacle upper left. Hold on a second. Come on. Delete. Boom. Okay, so now all the tentacles are good. I'm just gonna clean some of this up here real quick. This probably doesn't need to be there. Okay, cool, we got it. That doesn't need to be there either. Oh, goodness gracious, okay. So now I can just export this as one thing. Modify, expand, 10 pixels. Oh, goodness. This is upper left. Okay, upper right. Okay. Magnitude of the movement strength, yes. No idea you could do that in Godot. Which Godot? Or what did you not know? How do you make items characters take and deal damage? Well, it's a very broad question. It depends on what kind of game you're making. Right. Obviously, you want to use area collisions or hitboxes or whatever if you're doing like maybe like a shooting game or something. But when you're doing a card game like what I'm making, you can do a more direct... Like, there's no reason to use physics calculations for that, like physics system, when you could just say, here's the target, damage it, you know? In some tutorial, I see someone use class for a function that makes take damage function happen if it's part of an enemy or player. So you're probably referring to duck typing, where you just check if a class has the take damage function, and if it does, you call it. Probably use a component such as hitbox and hurtbox component. Yeah. You're making a game like mine. Yeah, so in that case, it's all just data, right? Like, you have all the data you need. When the player says, I want to target this card or this enemy, you just call the damage directly on the enemy. There's no reason to use like a physics system for that, area collisions or anything like that. So yeah, just create a publicly accessible method or function in if publicly accessible if you're using C#. If you're using GDScript, just create a function and call it on the enemy. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so you only ever fight one target at a time, and you're not targeting individual cards either. So it's really just as simple as like, who's the current enemy? Oh, it's this board here. Okay, well now I'm going to call damage on that board, you know? So what I do, on collision, check if it has a take damage function, and if so, send it a damage value. Yeah, that works. The problem that I have with duck typing though, like that, is that sometimes you want to pass along a more complicated object, right? So like in Gunforged, when a bullet hits something, it's not just the damage. It's like there's a whole context about like, I forgot now what, but there's a bunch of arguments, there's a bunch of data associated with any given hit of an enemy. And all that data is useful in some way to something in the game. And so if you have duck typing, what you'd have to do is update all of the take damage functions across your entire system if you ever wanted to add more arguments to it, right? So that's why I kind of prefer like a compositional based approach where anything that can take damage is a hurtbox component. And then if you want to expand the arguments or parameters that hurtbox take damage can take, then you only need to change it in one place, right? Good morning, Leonardo. Yeah, I think something along those lines is correct, or on the right track. Okay, so I had to create the masks for all these things now. Wait, that didn't work. Why did upper right not work? Hold on, I'll do this again. Oops. Okay, that's better. upper right mask. Head tentacle upper left mask. Head tentacle lower right mask. Oh, wait. Oh, man, I'm doing this all wrong. Upper right mask. Upper left mask. Let's see. Upper left mask. There we go. Okay, so now all these need to be converted to black and white. And then we can do the gradient. Okay, we'll do that. This is upper left. So I'll just do this. Probably something like that is more appropriate. Okay, this one. Shift G for the gradient tool. Okay, that should work. Now I can get all these in place. Goodness gracious. Oh, and I also need to export the head without any of the head tentacles in place. Oh, this is a mess. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and grab the head here. Oops. I forgot to do the highlights. Okay, this is all messed up now. That's okay, I'm just gonna change the offset. There we go. That's the way it's supposed to... Is that the way it's supposed to be? Oh, this eye mask, this position. Oh, goodness gracious. This is getting out of control. Okay, I'm going to undo this. Hold on. I'm going to undo this. Let's do this. Head alignment. This is crazy. Okay, so we're back to where we were. This is so difficult. Let's get rid of this. So we've got an alignment for our head now, so I can take this head, put this here, and now what I can do is I can offset the... Okay, that's really all I needed to do. Okay. That was easy. Goodness gracious. All right. Overriding take damage with subclass, right? Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. Those tentacles look sick. Does it use shaders? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed it does. Still need to make a hurtbox component. Yeah. What does the hurtbox component have? Is it just ref counted node with a single function? Or is it a node with area 2D collision? Yeah, it's the node with the collision area and everything set up for you. I mean, the idea behind like doing a component is that it should have everything you need to get the functionality out of the component you need. So if you can just instantiate a hitbox component or a hurtbox component and it has all the area configured for you, that's the ideal way to do it. Yeah, you can do that. Vet tree. Yeah, that works. Probably just a signal calling on hit and on area entered signal. Yeah. Dang, that's quite a creepy fella. Thank you. Can you give a quick brief on how you did the speed up buttons during the combat? I mean, yeah, it just all boils down to basically... Let me see. So yeah, there's this speed tier. Hold on a second. Where is this actually changing the speed? But basically you should store like your game speed somewhere, like in a central location or in a global place. And then you just, you can use that speed to speed up the things that are happening in your game. I don't actually know where this is happening. Yeah, so basically, yeah, when the game speed changes, I have a turn manager here that basically coordinates the turns between both sides. And all this does is this just changes the duration of the timer based on the game speed. So I have a base game turn seconds. So every turn in the game is 1 second by default. And then I divide that by whatever game speed I'm using. And I actually have, I kind of made this weird. I've got speed tiers, so there's like 1x, 2x, 3x, so on. But these are not actual multipliers. So tier 1 is 2, tier 2 is a multiplier of 6, tier 3 is a multiplier of 12. But anyway, so basically you just need to have your speed settings somewhere centralized, and then everywhere that relies on the speed settings, you need to read that property. I think it's a little bit wonky in my case, and I'm also not affecting the speed of animations yet, so I may end up changing the implementation. But we'll see. Okay, I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break, get a refill on my drink, and when I come back, we will finish getting these face tentacles in place. In the meantime, please check out the links in the description below for all the ways you can support my work, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Thanks for that. For timers and the time left, does that mean you are stopping the timer and restarting it with the adjusted speed and the remainder percent? Let me think. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So you have to check if the timer is stopped first, then you can just set the wait time. However, you do need to get the percent remaining based on, how much of the timer is left. And then you have to calculate your desired time. Yeah. So the start method here. Am I setting the timer wait time somewhere else as well? Oh wait, I think the start method... Yeah, so if you pass in a time to timer.start, it will start the timer, it will set the wait time for you and then automatically start the timer. So that's just a nice one-line way of doing it. Now, I wonder... Do I have a bug in here? No, this timer does not. Yeah, so this timer here is not, it's a one-shot timer. So I'm manually handling whenever the timer times out. And then if the game is still running, I start the timer again with the proper amount of seconds. So yeah, so if you're midway through like a timer and you change the game speed, you need to restart the timer with the appropriate time remaining based on your desired total time. And then what I do after that timer times out and it wants to start again, I'm starting it by just calculating every time what should be the appropriate full length of the timer and starting it with that value. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. So hopefully that makes sense. But let's do this. Tentacle lower right. Okay, let's copy this shader material. Let's duplicate it. Tentacle upper right. I'm gonna figure out where to put this now. Oh, I'm gonna put head alignment back. Oops. I'm gonna get rid of this for now so that I can align this properly. Okay, so I can paste that, make this unique. Shader parameters, head tentacle upper right mask, put that in there. And we'll change these shader parameters later, but that'll work. Okay, tentacle. Tentacle lower. No, tentacle, yeah, lower left. Let's just quick load in here. Paste, make unique, shader parameters, lower left mask, sweet. And then let's duplicate this. This is going to be upper left. When I have statuses in my game, I have status and status handler classes, and whenever I want some status to do something different when it's applied, I just overwrite the onStatusApplied function. Yeah, you're in the right, you have the right approach. It is a little bit harder with GDScript because you don't have abstract classes, but I'm basically doing the same thing here. So I've got a base status class, which is an abstract class, but inside of this abstract class, I have various methods like apply stacks. So I can apply a certain amount of stacks of this. And then I also have an execute method. This execute method takes an execution context, and then in each concrete version of a status, so like a fire status, I can take in that execution context and do my own logic in here. And then this execute, that gets orchestrated by the status component. So the status component receives all of the statuses and has various methods for applying statuses and removing statuses. But then when I want to tick the statuses, which happens as part of the turn order, basically, I just iterate over all the statuses that are on here with the proper execution context, and I call execute on all of those statuses. So I think you're basically like you're doing the same thing. Again, it's going to look a lot different in GDScript because of the lack of abstract classes. But yeah, you should generally have like a status class that has the concrete implementation, and you should have various, you can think of your class having individual events too, like what happens when the status is first applied, what happens when the status is ticked, what happens when the status dies, right? And you can either leave those functions blank or fill in a concrete implementation depending on what kind of status you're writing. It's just a very flexible way of doing that kind of system. Okay, I think I can get rid of this head alignment now. Well, I'll just hide it for now. Okay, it looks a little bit bad, but that's okay. Let's see what this looks like, and then I'll play with the shader parameters for these things. What's in the execution context? So this execution context, this is just a context object, a class that contains all the kind of stuff about the current context of what's being executed. So we've got the source board, we've got the target board, we've got references to board inventory components, a reference to the card that is currently executing, and then we've got turn executor component, turn context. So this is basically just an object that contains a bunch of data. So instead of trying to like pass in 8 different arguments into a method, what you could do is you could pass in a single argument, which is a context object, and then you could just stuff a ton of data into that context object. And for the majority of like the status effects that you'd write, most of the context is not going to be useful. But the point is that the context is like a unified sort of data snapshot that can be given to all kinds of different game systems that contains all the relevant data that you might need to do what you need to do. Is basically the way to view it. I forgot how complex this is, but yeah, there's like I've got like turn histories in here, so I can track the damage that has been dealt for the duration of the turn, because I have some systems that need to know about that, and it's just like, yeah. Some of the code that I've written here is a little bit complex, a little bit too complex, I would say. Anyway, so this is what we got now. Why does that look weird? I guess it's normal. Okay, so I think that's actually looking decent. I have to change some of these numbers though. Some of these shaders here. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit what I've got. So work. First time I apply burn, it deals 10 damage. When turn ends or I apply another burn, enemy takes stack amount of damage. Nice, yes. Thanks for the explanation, you're welcome. Kind of don't like how I have multiple files for a singular card. Like I have a card, a fire card scene, base card, fire script, fire resource having image and description. Applies burn to status handler, burn resource that stacks, and burn script doing the special function. Crazy how it works. Not gonna do that 100 times for each different item and card I wanted to make. I think that's kind of like unavoidable. The best you can do is like just genericize the fire status. So you could have multiple cards that all use the same fundamental fire status code, which I'm sure is what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, I kind of have the same thing. You know, I've got resources for my cards here. So data card, like here's the configuration for the card, which is just data basically about the card. We've got the art here, and then also got like what the turn cooldown is, and you know, whether it's an enemy or flippable, what tags are on it, critical chance, critical multiplier, that kind of thing. But then I also need to write a card script so that the card can have its composed abilities added. A composed ability is it's an ability that combines base abilities. So in here, this ability tracker is technically a card ability. And then this, like, there's a value scaler in here, and there's dynamic magnitude ability. But all this is a composed ability, and those composed abilities are all composed out of all of these things. So it's like, yeah, it can get very complicated, but at the same time, this level of granularity makes it really easy to design new cards. Like I can make a card right now that applies fire stacks and heals for the same amount. And that would be a relatively easy thing to do because I've got this whole system built up. Yeah, generalize everything until it can't be generalized, then I start making original cards. Yeah, I think that's right. So you can see that here's my base abilities. These are all like the building block abilities here. These are all very, very basic things like poison. The only thing that this poison ability does is it applies poison status when it gets executed. But if I want to, say, apply poison equivalent to the amount of physical damage that has been dealt in the previous turn or whatever, what I would do then is I would create a composed ability to wrap those two things together. So a composed ability stitches a bunch of those based abilities together into like a single coherent unit, right? So you could say like, let me think. So like this one, deal damage equal to the damage taken since the last execution, right? So this is a composed ability that ties a bunch of different abilities together. And then this composed ability is the thing that gets added to a card. And the reason why I'm doing it this way, you may not need this composed ability step, but the reason I'm doing it this way is because I have an alchemy system that allows you to mix and match the abilities from different cards. And so I could take the composed ability, which is simple damage reflection, and add it to another card. And that becomes really easy because I could, for instance, if I go back to my lantern here, this is a card, this is the card script. I could add in here new, what did I call it? Simple damage reflection. So now I've got two composed abilities on the lantern. The lantern is now going to apply shield based on how much fire you've applied, and also reflect damage based on how much damage you've taken. And then you can see how this becomes really easy to mix and match abilities now, because if the composed abilities on the card is ultimately just an array of abilities, then it becomes really easy to just lift abilities off of one card and put them onto the other card, right? So anyway, that's a little bit of a deep dive into how I'm approaching things. But like I said, depending on the card game you're making, you may not need to do that step. You could probably just write, you know, if you've got your ability building blocks, you could just write those directly into the card script if you don't need that kind of flexibility. But generally, like, I think a good rule of thumb is like, you need a layer of abstraction for each. I don't know how to explain this. In each way that you want to be flexible, you need a layer of abstraction. So if you want the flexibility to mix and match abilities from different cards, well, you need a layer of abstraction to handle that. If you want the flexibility to, you know, reuse like a fire status, then you need a layer of abstraction to handle that. Anyway, I gotta tweak these things. Okay. Actually, 2 is fine there. Negative 1.4. There goes the possum again. Where is that thing coming from? There's just there's a possum that has just, I don't know where that's coming from. I really hope that's not living in my house. Oh goodness. Unpopular opinion, UI work is so annoying. I don't know if that's unpopular, because every time I bring it up, everyone's like, yeah, I hate UI work. I mean, there are some weirdos in the chat here who do like UI work, but yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Okay, let me see if this looks fine, and if it does, then we're gonna call it good. I think really what I need to do is I need to reverse some of these. So this here, I'm gonna make this unique, this shader here. I'm gonna change this UV. This is gonna become a UV Y wave offset, Y wave offset. Reverse these. Let's see how that works. Have you been following some docs or tutorial for making statuses? Because that's exactly what I've been watching, like the execute function. No, I haven't. At most, I've just been like brainstorming with the AI about how to organize the things, but that's usually how I implement status components. So for the status system specifically, I didn't need any assistance. Are you explaining composition? No, not at the moment, no. Hello, Luca. Welcome back. Good to see you. Good morning to you as well, Dragon Apple. Tend to wake up late on weekends. That's all good. I was up at 6:45 this morning. Good morning, SL Wither King. What is abstraction? Abstraction is basically like... That's a good question. It's going to be difficult to define, I think. Like, I can give you a concrete example of abstraction. So if you're familiar with interfaces in languages like JavaScript, or not JavaScript, Java, C#, what an interface is it's basically a way of defining a set of methods that are going to be available on anything that extends the interface. So the classic example of this is like, you want to be able to write data, but you want a layer of abstraction such that the data can be written to whatever data storage medium you want to write to. So you got your application data that you're collecting from the user or whatever, and you want to take that data, gather it up in a way that can be understood by all of the data storage mechanisms. And so the way that you do that is you introduce a layer of abstraction through an interface where you define a common set of functions or methods like write data, read data, format data, whatever else. And then your concrete implementations, you might have one that writes to a database, and you might have one that writes to a file, and you might want to have one that writes to memory or whatever, or stores the data in memory. But the idea is that the layer of abstraction comes in when you go through the one interface. So your application says, oh, here's an interface that represents the object that's going to write the data. So I can just interact with that interface and just call write data and just call read data. And I'm completely agnostic as to where that data is actually ending up in terms of like, is it getting written to the disk or whatever? Because all I'm doing is interacting with that interface, right? So that would be called a layer of abstraction, where the details about how the data is being stored are hidden from the sort of like more application logic levels of the system, if that makes sense. So in the case of this card game, right, when I have my turn manager that calls the execute method on each of the cards, that turn manager is completely agnostic as to how that execution is being handled. The cards are responsible for coordinating the execution of all their abilities. So those are like several layers of abstraction, right? You've got the turn manager. All it does is it just calls execute on the cards, and it doesn't care what the cards do. The cards are all calling execute on the abilities. Again, they don't care what the abilities do, right? But this is all built up into like, it's a stack of things that are happening, right? At the very base level, you've got the poison that's actually being applied, but you go several layers up the stack, and the turn manager has no idea that that's what's happening when it calls execute. It just calls execute, and it leaves it up to the concrete classes, however they're implementing the execute method, to do whatever they need to do, right? So that's kind of like, I don't know if that's a good explanation, but those are like what layers of abstraction are. I love UI work, hate control nodes, yeah. Working with instantiating control node scenes and different scenes has been a pain because it just locks itself at 0 size and can't do anything. Yeah, that's true. Godot's UI system kind of sucks. I would say that it's not intuitive, especially for new people, but it is actually relatively powerful when you have a good understanding of how it works. There's just a ton of like quirks and pitfalls that you run into with working with control nodes that are relatively easy to work around if you understand how the system is working. Yeah, so like this comment right here from Ignawesome. So I solved this problem by writing a pass-through control, which allows me to still position things as if they were children of containers. But then the pass-through control allows me to animate children without having it fight over the positioning. So I don't actually have to code anything myself. I can just use my pass-through control, and then I can animate things with freedom. I don't mind UI work when everything works, but right now I'm fighting with Godot for my UI. Right. AI helps you learn, yeah. You can think of AI as like a very advanced rubber duck. I'm unsure if I like the head bobbing or not. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I don't know if I like it either. Now that I've got the tentacle movement in place. That tentacle movement actually didn't turn out that bad. I mean, it's obviously like not the best tentacle in the world. Like you could definitely do a better job with some other kind of tentacle effect, but all I really wanted to do was give the impression of motion, and I think that worked pretty well. I actually am going to remove the head bob now that you mention it. It was a good try, but I don't think it's working. Signal connect and such. Yeah, you could view signals as, well, I don't know if I'd necessarily call those a layer of abstraction, but signals are kind of in that same vein where like maybe like an observer pattern is a layer of abstraction. I don't know, these kind of terms, they're kind of like fuzzy. You know, it's one of those things where like you'll know it when you see it, but it's kind of hard to define, I think. Maybe an observer pattern could be considered a layer of abstraction as well, because you're creating a pattern or a system or a framework of notifying when things are happening in the game that leave a lot of the, like, it leaves the signal emitter agnostic as to the signal receivers and what they're doing, right? Good explanation, thank you. Maybe if the head bobbing was smooth, it would look better. Well, the problem is I can't make it smooth. The head is literally only moving by 1 pixel, and there's no sub-pixel movement in this game. So I can't make it smoother than what it was. It's not possible. Although this looks fine, actually. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's like my favorite thing I've ever made, almost. Kind of makes me want to make a game that's just centered around this guy. Like, imagine just like a single screen game, and it takes place entirely on this board, and that's the entirety of the game. It'd be kind of interesting. Anyway. Took me so long to understand the command pattern. Yeah, I'll admit I don't even know. Like, I'm sure if I studied the command pattern, I'd understand it, but I don't know, like, off the top of my head, a lot of the patterns. But yeah, things like command pattern, I know that there's game programming patterns.net or .org or .com or whatever that has a lot of good patterns for using game dev. But I've talked about this before. It's like knowing the patterns that are available to you is useful, but I think there's a danger in like you go to your code with the intent to apply a pattern rather than letting the needs of your program influence which patterns you use. And if you become an experienced enough developer, you'll just fall into using things that could be given an academic name for a pattern without even realizing it, because it becomes really natural to design your software in that way. So like, I'm sure when I was working at a startup, I'm sure I was using all kinds of patterns that I just didn't know the names for when I was writing code, just based on the way that the frameworks work and how they expect you to write code and all that stuff. Does your turn manager determine ability execution order? The turn manager determines the execution order of the cards. The cards determine the execution order of the abilities. So in a sense, yes, the turn manager does determine the execution order of the cards, but only indirectly because the execution order of the abilities, but only indirectly because it determines the execution order of the cards. And actually, that's not even correct. The card execution order is based on their position in the grid. So, like here, it goes from left to right and top to down. So it starts at the top left cell, and it says, okay, is there a card here? No. Is there a card here? No. I mean, it doesn't examine cell by cell. It just orders the cards by a sequential cell ID. This is like a lot, but essentially, I'm mapping every cell on the grid to an integer value. So this is 0, and then this one is 1, and then this one is 2, and this one is 3. But that's based on going left, right, and top to down. So I just order the cards based on their sequential ID, and that determines the order. So the skeleton is always going to execute before this mutton here. And if I were to do this, the mutton is going to execute before the skeleton. And I don't know if I'm going to educate the player on that or not. Maybe I should, because the execution order might be important. Actually, it will be important for your board. So yeah, but I wanted to make it deterministic in terms of the order, so the player has control over it. So it's actually technically the positioning of the cards on the board are what determines the card execution order. Problem is the tentacle animations are smooth and the head bob is not right. Yeah, I agree. I think it looks better without the head bob. Do you have a video or course on the system for animation of controlled children that you mentioned? I'm interested. No, I might make a video on that though. The problem is my pass-through control, it has one really annoying bug that I've not been able to resolve. And I just need to figure that out, I think. But here's what I'll do. I'll give you a quick crash course on the pass-through control right now. Okay, so here's the pass-through control. And I'm just gonna scroll through this script right now so that you can go back to the VOD and pause and copy the code over. So I'm just gonna scroll down. We're looking at the pass-through control. Okay, so that's the pass-through control script. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. So let's say that I have, let me do this. So let's say I have a margin container, which is stretching to fill the whole screen. And I've got an HBox container. And let's just put a couple of labels in here. Label 1, 2, oh wait, let's make this a VBox container. Okay, And let's say that I want this to be shrink center, or no, shrink begin and shrink center. So it's on the left side, and I'll do a margin container too, just for completeness. Let's do margin left 32. I keep wanting to save this. I gotta break that habit. But let's say that I want this HBox container. I want this to animate in from outside of the screen. I can't do that because this is a child of a container. So I'm not allowed to move this. I could animate it with a tween. However, the tween is going to end up fighting with the margin container over control of the positioning of this child. So what I can do is with the pass-through control, I can add this in here. And the pass-through control adopts whatever container sizing of the children. So if I put the child here, this pass-through control now automatically adopts that shrink begin and shrink center. You see that? So it automatically adopts that size flag positioning. But the problem with, or the thing about the pass-through control is this is a container base type, which means you still can't move the stuff in the editor. However, when you're running the game, the pass-through control does not do anything to position children, and the base container type doesn't do anything to position children either. So all of your children are now free to be animated. So I could take this HBox container now with this pass-through control, and I can animate this freely with a tween, and I'm gonna have no problems with it. And the beauty of this is that this position is 0, 0. So you know that when you set this HBox container's position to 0, 0, it's going to be exactly in the flow, in the overall layout as it should be. Because the pass-through control, since it's adopting the minimum size and the container sizing of its child, it's going to be a placeholder in the UI flow for that child that you want to animate. So anyway, and you can stack these pass-through controls too. So if you wanted to do a multi-stage animation, you can stack pass-through controls pretty easily. And basically these pass-through controls just ultimately, whatever's at the bottom of the tree is what all the pass-through controls inherit. So this passes its size flags up to this one from the HBox container. So that's how I use that. Maybe a more fluid head bob would match the fluidity of the tentacle movements. Yes, I agree, but I just don't know how to do that because I was already moving the head by only 1 pixel. My base status, like fire, is just a resource with some values. And when if it triggers at the start of a turn or end, I can just change it before giving it status handler. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you refer to Refactoring Guru a lot? I don't. Is that a YouTube channel or something? I don't know what this comment is in reference to, Dragon Apple. Course is very good, Firebelly. Thank you, Pocket Pixie. I appreciate that. Thanks for the explanation. I had issues with those controls in the past. Yeah, you're welcome. What's the bug you mentioned about it that you cannot figure out? Yeah, there's some situations where in the editor, sometimes the pass-through control does not adopt the proper sizing, and I think it's usually when there's nested pass-through controls. It's a very rare thing, but sometimes I can save my scenes in a bad state because the pass-through control got the wrong sizing information. Now, fortunately, that's usually fixable by just changing something about the layout. So usually if that happens, I just like unparent the child and reparent it, and then it forces an update. But like I said, I don't know why that happens. I was also using tweens that fought against containers. It's going to be useful. Yeah. I wish there was a formal Godot way of animating controls, even if it was just like something like this pass-through control. Because it seems like a very big need that has been... It's been a need for a long time, so I'm surprised there's no Godot built-in way of doing it. Maybe I'll write the pass-through control in C++ and try to get it merged into the Godot repository. I don't know if they would accept that, though. Okay, don't save. What am I doing? Refactoring Guru is a website about programming patterns. Oh, I see. No, I don't think I've ever been on that website. I'll have to check it out. So we want a blink animation too. All right, you know what they say, F it. Let's try a blink animation. I'm just kind of like goofing off on this stream, I guess. But this is going to be the best looking screen in the whole game. I'll check the proposals to see if anyone made a post about it. Yeah, I'm sure there has to be a proposal or something in there. It's been such a broad need. You joke with your friends calling it out of your control nodes because of it. That's funny. Oh, my voice. Agree, it's weird there's not a more intuitive solution for animating controls yet. Yeah. Fundamentally, the problem just boils down to if you have children of container nodes that you want to animate, you have to, in some way, create an intermediary control node that can hold the position in the flow according to the size of the child you want to animate, while not automatically positioning the child, right? So you could do that by just introducing a control node yourself. Like if you know the size of your element, you can just set the custom minimum size of a plain control node to be the size of that element, and then you're free to just animate that element. The nice thing about the pass-through control is that it's responsive to size changes in the children. So if you've got something that's an unknown size or a dynamic size, the pass-through control will resize itself to be that dynamic size, and then then you can animate it freely. So, all right, how do I want to do this? I don't know what color to use, but let's see. Okay. Actually, I don't need... I only need one eye here. Let's copy this. I'll just call it eyelid, I guess. Paste it. Okay. We're going to try a couple of different colors for this. Duplicate. My worry is that this might look a little bit flat. But we'll try it. Okay. Okay, that's probably going to be, I mean, I'll mess with the shading, I guess, a little bit, but I'm going to add a shader onto this one too. Shader material, new shader. Just do a built-in shader, I guess. Uniform sampler 2D. Eyelid mask. Uniform sampler or uniform float progress. Into range 0.0 to 1.0. Vec4 texture color is equal to texture UV. Float mask sample is equal to texture eyelid mask UV dot R. Color is equal to texture color times I don't know, I'm not supposed to do if, but if progress is less than mask sample, so color equals texture color. Color times equals, can I do 0? Okay. Oh, I forgot to supply the eyelid mask. Oops. Okay, so that's how it would look. Actually, eyelid mask. Let's go back here. Probably want to do this horizontally. Oops. Oops. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see if that works. Okay. I have no clue how that's going to look in game, so I'm just going to try my best to animate this. Left eyelid. Node private sprite 2D left eyelid. Tween is equal to create tween. Tween.tween property. Left eyelid. Dot material. Shader param slash progress. To 1F, duration 0.25, 0F 0.25, tween.tween interval let's just do 2 seconds, tween.set loops 0. All right, let's see if that works. Only 6 votes though, it's a pretty long discussion, I'll read it later. Oh, gotcha. For the, yeah, control stuff. That didn't work. Tween property shader parameter progress does not exist in object, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I need to do shader parameter. Let's do this. Let's make this quicker. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Unfortunately, I don't think links can be shared in this chat. Why not use bones to move your sprite, not shader? That's just too much work. YouTube does not show comments with links, yeah. How do we feel about that? I actually don't know. Let's see. So obviously the blinking is a little bit fast. Or it's a little bit too often. I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let me try. I don't think something like this is going to work, but let's see. Do you like the thinking? Do you like thinking about the lore for your games? I actually don't. I've not really done much lore thinking. That doesn't look right either. What happens if I just make this? Yeah, I mean, world building is fun and everything, but I just felt like my games were never big enough to have any sort of like lore associated with them. I guess my primary concern is like I just want to try to make a game that's fun. I don't want to get caught up in like trying to come up with all this lore and include that in the game. It's like I'm still trying to just make games fun here. You know, something that I'm still learning how to do. Doesn't look right to me. I don't know if the shading is gonna work. But thank you, Patrick. Have you seen Chicken Software's C# Godot tools? If so, do you think they're useful? I haven't seen them, no. Let me see. I'd have to take a look at this. Yeah, I'd have to form an opinion on that. I'm gonna take a deeper look. I don't know if I like this. They have serialization helpers and a bunch of things. That's a lot. Okay. I'm going to have to check it out. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What am I doing? Do I want to add a blink or do I want to just leave the blink off? I'm trying to imagine. Let me cover this eye. I'm trying to imagine what it'd be like if both of them blinked. Okay. What happens if I let that stay there a little bit more and then slowly unblink? Actually, that kind of looks kind of cool. You liked it more when the lid wasn't held as closed as long. Let's move it down, or let's, yeah, turn the lid closure down. Obviously, the interval would be randomized to some extent as well. So it's a quick blink and a slower unblink, which I think looks pretty good. What do you think? Blink or no blink? Seems useful if you wanted to use C#, which I don't until the web export is working. Right. Good morning, Christopher. Yes, we got a weekend stream going on here. Absolutely. You like the blink? All right, let's see if I can let's get the other eye in place then and see. Long blink intervals makes it creepier. Yeah. We'll do longer blink intervals. Now the question is, can I get this to work by just flipping this around and taking this shader here. So the problem is that this, oh wait, it worked. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that automatically works. They're the same shader material, so I only need to animate this one. So let's do this now. Add child node random timer. Do a random timer. Let's do min of 4 and max of 6. One shot. We'll turn on auto start as well. Why not? Node private random timer. Oops, this should just be a timer. Random timer dot timeout plus equals on random timer timeout. All right, let's see what that does. All right, I read that one. No blink seems more creepy. Yeah, I kind of think so. But also the blink looks cool, so I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to restart the timer. How do I feel about that? Maybe longer blink intervals. Let's try longer blink intervals. Random timer, let's do a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 10 seconds. That should help a little bit. Make it a little bit less frequent. I like it more than no blink at all. Okay, okay. Even though I got 251 FPS with Pixie.js on my most expensive screen, I couldn't figure out how to get background scrolling after hours of trying. Also, my standalone exe startup time is forever. Oh, interesting. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. This guy really turned out really good. Damn. Yeah. Thank you, Louis T. Liu T. Very much appreciate that. And welcome back. Definitely adds more life. It's creepier if it's slower. Slower how? Like slower in terms of the interval between each blink? Or if the blinks themselves are slower. Slower blink, the interval is fine. So you want me to make it slower than it is now? So as of last night, I'm 45 minutes into GD Quest's 2D Vampires Survivors tutorial for Godot. GD Quest has a 2D Vampire Survivors tutorial too? What are they doing? Copying me? I'm just kidding. Do you enjoy your solutions for State Machine 100%? What I mean by that is I've tried a lot of different implementations and didn't find the perfect one yet. Yeah, what is the main problem that I have with mine? Shoot. There was one problem that I had with it, which is not ideal, but I don't remember it now. Yeah, I mean, the one thing about my state solution is that some state machines will have explicit connections between the states that you can make, such that if you want to traverse to another state, you may actually have to visit a few different states to get there. My state machine doesn't do that. It just allows you to just change into whatever state you want. And so if you say, if you want to manage well, you can only go to this state when you're in this state, you'd have to explicitly program that. Do you have the sketch you started with for comparison? I do. Hold on, let me get all these visible here. Okay, so this is the final. That's the final art, right? And then if I get rid of this. Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. And here's the mock-up. I mean, this is just like the basic framing of it. But that's the mock-up, and then that's kind of what it transformed into. Make it random, I feel dizzy. Well, it is random. What do you mean, make it random? Anyway, I want to try to, let's see, slower blinks. It's hard to notice the way the eyelids are closing when it's fast. There's a slower blink. Since it's a weird way that it blinks, I guess making it more noticeable just helps with the creepiness. So we got slower blinks on now. Oh, that does look kind of better, actually. Slow, calm blink. Love it. Thank you, Toshigata. It's come a long way, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I have a Vampire Survivors tutorial. I released the Vampire Survivors tutorial right when Godot 4 came out. So if GD Quest copied me, then... Well, what are you going to do? No, I mean, it's like... it's a very popular game that a lot of people want to make. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised at all that other popular tutorial creators did the same thing. There's no such thing as an original idea anyway. That blink looks better. All right, yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it looks good. I'm gonna look this up. I wanna see. So here's that GD Quest, Vampire Survivors. Oh. So yeah, I mean, GD Quest is great. I would definitely recommend if you're a beginner or you want to get learning in Godot, definitely check out GD Quest. They've got a ton of good stuff for sure. The right eye is bugging a bit when opening. Is that true? How is it bugging? Let me see. I'm not seeing what you're talking about, Patrick. Maybe there's like I don't know if there's artifacts on the YouTube stream or something, maybe. It looks fine on my screen. Yeah, it could just be the stream. Yeah, I haven't noticed it getting stuck at all. It's probably just the YouTube compression because the colors are so similar to each other and the animation's relatively fast. So it might just be a compression artifact. GD Quest for beginners the best. Yeah, I've watched this tutorial and their courses in your course. I think their version of Vampire Survivors is more for beginners. Like to see how easy it is to make a very simple game. Yeah. No, I think GD Quest is great. Absolutely great. You're working on a Vampire Survivors clone and going in fully blind. Awesome. Looks fine to me. Ship it. All right, let me put it up on Steam right now. Yours goes deeper in some aspects. Yeah. My course is more for intermediate developers and more for like, again, my courses are for showing people like what a real game looks like. Like what does a jam scoped publishable game look like? Because a lot of tutorial content, they show you how to do something very narrowly, right? But it can be hard to go from, well, here's this narrow tutorial to like, what is actually the rest of the work that goes into making the game? And so that's what my courses focus on is like, we start with an empty project and we go all the way to the finished product with saving and loading and like all that stuff. Saving, like all the lessons get tied together. So saving and loading, gameplay programming, particles, you know, building the game, you name it. And we're going to be doing the same, or I'm going to be doing the same for the online multiplayer course. I'm going to leave off some stuff, like I'm not going to do saving and loading, because the big thing is the multiplayer functionality, which is going to be a lot of hours of content. But at the end of the day, what you're going to have is, with the online multiplayer course, is a game that you could publish, send to your friends, and then you connect and you play it. And it's going to be complete in that sense. Lame-o, oh my gosh. That's what I like to see from tutorials, yeah. Okay. So let's commit this. I'll just make the commit message add eyelids. Can you give a little spoiler from the course? Yeah, if you go to my itch.io page, the game that I published, or game that I made for GMTK last year called Globins, that's basically the game that you're going to be making in the course. So yeah, there's your spoiler. Okay, that's going to be it for the stream. I'm going to go get some lunch, but thank you everyone for watching. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate that. And again, if you want to support my work, please check out the links in the description below. Those are all the ways you can support me. And Yeah, I hope you all have a good weekend. I may be streaming tomorrow, so hit the notification bell to be notified of that. Otherwise, I'll see you back here Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.